Max Fried signs with the New York Yankees. It is step one of the great Juan Soto pivot. Let's get into the details. For every free agent signing and trade for the rest of this winter, we're going to employ something of a template so we make sure we hit all the major points. And as I said, we will begin with the details. 8 years, $218 million. That is the fourth largest contract ever given to a free agent pitcher and the largest contract ever given to a left-handed pitcher. It's good to see a lefty succeed. That's why I'm here in Vietnam.
That's a good joke. And also, do you know whose record he broke there for the left-handed starter?
I would imagine friend of the show, Carlos Rodon.
No, it is not friend of the show. Hopefully future friend of the show, David Price, who signed for $217 million. So you love to see the New York Yankees breaking the record held by a Red Sox pitcher with Max Fried.
Now, I want to say, when we talk about record-breaking contracts, the value with inflation of David Price's contract 10 years ago is obviously higher than it is right now. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, 218 feels like a record. Besides the contract, next up, player overview. Who is Max Fried? What is he good at? Drafted by the San Diego Padres out of Harvard Westlake High School in LA, where he attended alongside Lucas Giolito. Fried then moved to Atlanta in the Justin Upton trade way back in 2014. Spent the entirety of his MLB career with the Braves. You've seen him in enormous spots, very often in the postseason. He has the single lowest ERA in baseball since the beginning of the 2020 season. He is elite at run prevention. He strikes out fewer batters than you would want from a frontline ace making $218 million. But he's still sensational at getting the ball on the ground. He's very good at not walking guys. He took a half step back in that this year, but the track record is strong enough that I think it's more of a blip. And as a whole, like, Fried is one of the best 15 pitchers in the world. Now, is there such thing as a awesome contract for a 31-year-old pitcher? Probably not. But if you're going to pay someone this age who throws a baseball for a living, Max Fried is a pretty good choice.
Yeah, and Joel Sherman had some great reporting at the New York Post about kind of the negotiations involving Fried and how obviously after Juan Soto goes to the Mets, the Yankees, who were already interested in starting pitching, had to kind of figure out what direction they were going to go and how quickly. Of course, Snell had gone off the board earlier. Burns still out there at the time that we're talking. But, you know, the Yankees, we look at these starting pitching deals, and you can apply this to other free agents too, but at the top of the market, you're thinking about, oh man, 7, 8 years for a pitcher. Oh, what's that going to look like? The Yankees are not concerned about that right now. They have to win a bidding war for Max Fried in a hot starting pitching market right now. And that means outbidding Texas, who was reportedly offering him nearly $200 million. Boston also heavily involved. We know what they end up doing a little bit after Max Fried. And so Fried wanted the 8th season, and the 8th season is what made him a Yankee. And that is a huge commitment. Obviously, you don't see pitcher contracts handed out at this length, but that's how you get the deal done, because they're getting Max Fried. They're not concerned about Max Fried 8 years from now. They're concerned about Max Fried helping the 2025 Yankees get back to the World Series.
Last thing about Max Fried, player overview. Another member of the Jewish community moving to New York. Jordan, we might have enough guys for a minion at Yankee Stadium between Brad Ausmus, Scott Efros, and all the fans, and me, and Joel Sherman. It's the whole mashpucha is coming to New York. And if they sign Alex Bregman, oh, what a blessing it might be.
I'm kvelling. Jake, Max Fried as a Yankee, first of all, like, when we went into this, obviously we spent so much time thinking about how the Yankees were going to get Soto or not get Soto that there is still a lot of questions about the lineup, obviously.
How much does this move the needle? It is not Juan Soto. Are the Yankees with Max Fried the favorite in the division now?
Could you have argued they already were? I think perhaps based on Baltimore's moves or non-moves. We're going to get to Boston's first big move here in a second. Obviously, they were much farther behind in this past season. Does this definitively make them that right now? Feels goofy to give any answer about that when we have so many moves ahead of us. But I think, sure. I think so. The Yankees position player group right now is not looking awesome, and this certainly does not fix that. But it's just, we're just so far away from knowing what any of these rosters are going to look like. So I'm kind of copping out here. But is this a player that could be a 5-WAR player? And if you add that to a team that was already in a pretty good position, I don't know. I think you would default to the Yankees even at this stage.
Winners and losers, besides Max Fried and the Yankees. Loser, the Toronto Blue Jays. The Yankees were never going to roll over and throw their hands up after not getting Soto. There was always going to be a meaningful pivot. But the Blue Jays, each move from the Red Sox and the Yankees makes the path to a competitive 2025 seem more and more impossible for the Blue Jays. So that to me is a very, like, Yankees fans are thinking, oh no, the Blue Jays. But I think that is relevant here. Each additional move in the division, just, man, feel bad for them. Other loser, the 2027 Yankees, who will be paying $27.8 million to Max Fried, $27.8 million to Carlos Rodon, $31.5 to Max Fried, and $36 to Garrett Cole. That is a outrageous sum of money to be tied up in 3 starting pitchers of that age. Will they all age well? No. Will they all age poorly? No. Still, there's a reason that teams don't operate this way that often, and I'm fascinated to see how it turns out. Now, it doesn't negate that this was a good move and a good deal and could help the Yankees in the short term. It's just adding the risk on top of itself.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally valid. But again,
who's a winner here for you?
Maybe I was going to say Matt Blake. I'm like, Max Fried's interesting because he's been kind of the same pitcher for so long and so successful for so long that, like, I do wonder what the next chapter of his career, like, is there a new pitch that unlocks more strikeouts, or do you just be like, hey Max, don't change a thing. We just want you to stay healthy and keep on cooking. You could say that about a lot of great free agents that end up in places that they clearly got that contract because they've already been so successful. But because of the Yankees' track record, I am curious because, I mean, let's be real. Carlos Rodon is someone who we've seen him start to change some things, but he still hasn't really gotten quite back to that same level that we saw at his peak in San Francisco. And that's not necessarily Carlos's fault or Matt Blake's fault or anything. But when pitchers sign in new places, it's hard not to think about, even though they did get the big contract, it's not like a Frankie Montas thing where it's like, ooh, we think we can really unlock something bigger. No one's necessarily saying that about Max Fried. But I am thinking about it about him. I'm thinking about it about Blake Snell, to be honest, going over to the Dodgers. So that's not really a winner, but it is something I'm definitely thinking about.
And then the last winner here is me. Max Fried is an intelligent, insightful, interesting cat. And now he plays in the city where I live, and I get to interact with him more and learn a lot about the sport of baseball.